The ship floated above the dark side of the moon, silent and powerful. Inside the command room, Human Officer Mark leaned back in his chair, sipping synthetic coffee. Across the console sat Salvin, his alien colleague, a tall, fierce Solari warrior with glowing silver eyes and sharp violet markings running down her face. Mark liked working with her. She was smart, fast, and calm under pressure. But today, something felt off. They had just returned from a scouting mission in Sector 4. All was quiet. No threats, no pirates, no strange signals. Yet Salvin kept staring at the stars outside, her jaw tight, claws tapping slowly on the edge of the console. Mark tried to lighten the mood. "So, back home, I used to know a girl who reminded me of you," he said with a small laugh. "Not the claws, of course, but same sharp attitude. She was my high school crush." He expected a joke back, or maybe silence. Instead, he heard a loud crack. Sparks flew across the room. Salvin had slammed her fist into the control panel. The ship's lights flickered. Warning lights turned red. Systems began to shut down one by one. Mark jumped to his feet. "What the hell?" Salvin stood up. Slowly, her face was unreadable. "Don't speak of other females in front of me again," she said in a low, cold voice. The main engine cut off. "All systems offline," the computer voice said. "Main thrusters disabled. Communication lost." Mark stared at her in disbelief. It was just a comment, a joke. "What is going on?" But she didn't answer. Crew members in the next room shouted over the intercom. Emergency lights flashed. The ship was drifting, no power, no control. They were stuck in deep space. Salvin stepped forward. Her eyes were glowing brighter now. "You are not funny, human," she said. "Not when you speak of another, not when we are bonded." "Bonded?" Mark blinked. What are you talking about? You don't understand. Do you?" she whispered. "I knew you wouldn't." Mark raised his hands. "Okay, slow down. Let's fix the ship first, then we talk." She didn't move. For a long second, he thought she might hit him next. Then the backup lights turned on, dim and red. Emergency systems were running. Salvin turned away, sat back at her chair, and said nothing more. Mark went to the comms station. "This is Officer Mark of the UHS Intrepid," he said into the mic. "We've lost main power. Requesting immediate assistance. We're drifting in Zone 3C near the lunar belt." No response. Mark tried again. "This is an emergency. We've suffered internal damage. Repeat requesting help." Still nothing. He looked back at her. "What did you do to the communication array?" "I smashed it," she said flatly. "Why?" Salvin looked at him with burning eyes. "Because you spoke her name." Mark stepped back, stunned that he had worked with Solari for a year. He had studied their ways, learned their language, even fought beside them. But nothing in the books warned him that a simple joke could trigger this. He thought they were just teammates. Apparently, she thought they were something more. Salvin's breathing slowed. Her eyes dimmed a little. "You are mine, Mark of Earth. I chose you. But I see now you are still uncertain." Mark didn't know what to say. She had never acted this way before. Was this how Solari showed feelings? Through violence? "We need to fix the ship," he said quietly. "And we need to talk after that." She nodded once. "Then we begin with the power core." Mark moved toward the access panel, but his thoughts were spinning. Did he just trigger a romantic jealousy crisis on a warship? Because of a harmless joke? What else had he misunderstood about her? As they worked together in silence, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that this mission had just changed forever. The silence inside the ship was heavy. Red emergency lights bathed every corner in a low, pulsing glow. Mark lay on the floor near the damaged panel, slowly waking up after a short rest. He rubbed his eyes, sat up, and looked around. The air was cold. Systems were still down. There was no engine hum. No soft beeping of sensors, only the soft hum of the backup battery keeping life support running. He turned his head and saw her Salvin sitting just a few meters away. Perfectly still, her back straight, her eyes locked on him. She had not moved for hours. Her gaze didn't blink. Her breathing was deep, steady, controlled. She looked more like a statue than a living creature. Yet Mark could feel her emotions crawling through the air between them. He cleared his throat. Any updates? She didn't answer. Mark stood up slowly and checked the console again. Still no signal. The comms are fried. We're stuck. Still no response. Mark turned to her, walking closer, stopping just outside arm's reach. Listen, Salvin. I didn't know. I didn't mean to insult you. That girl I mentioned, she's from years ago. I barely remember her. It was just small talk. Her head turned slightly. Her voice was calm, but heavy. Do you speak of her in your sleep too? Mark frowned. What? I heard her name while you rested, she said. Your voice, soft, as if calling to her. I didn't mean look. I don't even know what I dream about half the time. You dream of her, but you wake up with me. The words hit him like a punch in the chest. He hadn't thought much of his behavior. He'd been casual, friendly, maybe even relaxed around her. But now, trapped in a dead ship with her glowing eyes watching every move, he began to understand how serious this had become. He sat down beside the wall, keeping a small distance. You said we were bonded. What does that mean, exactly? She looked away, her voice quieter now. It means I chose you. Before my clan, before the council, before my sisters, I spoke your name as mine. In our tradition, that makes the claim clear. Mark's eyes widened. Wait, like marriage? No, she said, deeper. Marriage is contract. Bonding is soul. He rubbed his face. And when did this happen? The night you saved me on Varkish 9. You shielded me from fire. You risked death. You told me I mattered. I would have done that for anyone on my team, I know. That's why I chose you. Mark fell silent. His head was spinning. He remembered the mission well, how they were ambushed, how he pushed her out of the blast zone and nearly lost a leg. After that, she started following him more, standing closer, speaking in softer tones. He had taken it as simple respect. Now it made sense. So when I mentioned another woman, it felt like betrayal. I didn't mean it that way. I swear. She nodded. Intent does not change effect. He sighed. Okay, look, let's focus. We need power, or we're dead. No one's coming. Help me fix the reactor, please. She didn't move for a few seconds, then stood up slowly and walked to the back panel near the floor. She opened it without a word, revealing the main power line burned, blackened. It would take hours to rewire, and the air supply wouldn't last forever. Mark joined her. Their hands brushed once, and she froze. Her breath caught for a second, then she moved aside, giving him room. They worked in silence. Each connection sparked slightly. Each wire was a step toward survival. As they worked, Salvin occasionally glanced at him, but not with anger. Something softer now, something unreadable. After 2 hours, Mark leaned back, his hands covered in soot. That should do it. We'll get emergency power to the main core. Just need to reroute it through the lower conduit. She looked at him, then reached out and placed her fingers on his forehead. He froze. What are you doing? Mark of Earth, she said quietly. I still do not understand your kind, but I am trying. Do you still wish to work beside me now that you know what I feel? Mark hesitated. He thought of the team of Earth, of how much he didn't understand about her people, her culture. But he also remembered her saving him, fighting beside him, trusting him, and now opening up in a way no Zalari ever had. He gave a slow nod. Let's fix the ship first. Then we figure us out. She pulled her hand away, satisfied. Then, we are still one unit. Yeah, Mark smiled weakly. One very confused unit. As they reconnected the last circuit, the lights came back dim, flickering, but steady. Power was returning, but deep inside the ship, in the sensor grid that had just come back online, something else flickered to a foreign signal, approaching fast, cloaked in the void of space. Neither of them saw it yet, but it saw them. A low beep echoed through the silent command deck. The monitor cracked to life, showing a blurry signal something was nearby. Mark leaned forward, adjusting the calibration, trying to clear the static. Lines of code flickered on the screen, but he couldn't identify the object. It's not responding to our beacon, he muttered. No transponder signal, no ID tag. Salvin stood behind him, her gaze locked onto the display. That's not a friendly ship. Mark zoomed in. A dark, jagged silhouette moved through space silent, unannounced, drifting like a shadow. With purpose, too large to be a scout, too fast to be a transport, it was closing in. Slowly but directly. Pirates, Mark asked. No, Salvin said, her voice low. Hunters. Mark's stomach tightened. They were still recovering power, still unable to jump away. The ship wasn't ready for combat, and the weapons were offline. Whatever was out there, they weren't here for peace. He turned toward her. Can we hide? Cloak, anything? There's no time. If they've seen us, they're already preparing to strike. As if on cue, a sharp jolt rocked the cruiser. Warning lights flared again. Mark grabbed onto the console while Salvin stayed rooted like a mountain. Incoming boarding signal, the computer voice announced. Mark dashed to the weapons locker. Yanking it open empty, she stepped in front of him, claws drawn, face calm. I will defend you. We need to work together, Mark said quickly. This isn't about, I know, she interrupted, eyes glowing. But my bond to you is not just emotion, it is duty. The lights flickered again. In the hallway, the sound of boots echoed metallic, sharp, not human. Mark recognized it. Scavenger suits. Hired killers. No honor, no rules. They would not ask questions. He grabbed a pipe from under the console. Then we fight together. She turned, her tail whipping once behind her. Stay close. Do not run. The first scavenger burst through the side hatch, its mask glowing red. A blade in one hand and a charge gun in the other. Before it could aim, Salvin launched forward. Her claws slashed through the helmet. The body dropped without a sound. More followed. The hallway turned into chaos, flashes of red light, alien shrieks, metal tearing through the air. Mark fought with every swing, every breath, but it was Salvin who turned the tide. She moved like lightning, no fear, no hesitation. Her body became a shield, her rage a weapon. One attacker tackled Mark from behind. He hit the ground, gasping. The charge gun pressed to his back. Say goodbye, fleshbag, the scavenger hissed. Salvin's roar echoed through the corridor. She grabbed the attacker by the neck, lifted him off Mark, and slammed him against the wall so hard the metal bent. Blood sprayed. The scavenger dropped, lifeless. She turned to Mark, breathing heavy. You are unharmed. He nodded, stunned. Thanks to you. The ship jolted again. The scavenger vessel had latched on fully. More were coming. We can't hold them off forever, Mark said. We need to end this. She nodded once. There's a way. I can purge the docking tunnel, force a decompression. It will kill the ones still inside. You'll be sucked out too, he said. Only if I do not close the blast gate fast enough. No. Mark snapped. I'm not losing you. She looked at him, her voice suddenly soft. You would risk the ship to keep me. I'd risk more than that, he said. We survive together, or we don't. A flicker passed through her expression, shock, then something deeper. Together they ran to the emergency control chamber. The panel was still half fried, and pressure systems were unstable. The tunnel hissed. The sound of metal tearing and seals breaking growing louder. The scavengers were almost inside. Mark moved to the purge lever. If this fails, we both get spaced. Then let us pull it together, Salvin said. They locked eyes, hands on the same control. 3. She said, 2, Mark replied. 1. They pulled. A deep boom echoed through the hull. The outer tunnel ripped away, dragging the scavengers into the vacuum. The pressure shift almost tore them off their feet, but the blast gate slammed shut just in time. Silence returned. They stood still, catching their breath. Mark leaned against the wall, sweat dripping from his forehead. You saved me again, he whispered. You saved us both. He looked at her, truly looked past the glowing eyes and fierce face. Under the warrior armor was someone loyal, someone who chose him not just by instinct, but with purpose. Back there, he said, when I joked about that girl, I didn't know you felt this way. I would have never said it. She took a step closer. You belong to no one human, but you matter to me. I think you matter to me too, he said, voice barely audible, for the first time since they met. She smiled, not the war smile of a Zalari fighter, but something warmer, and, deep in the shadows of space, another signal blinked to life. This wasn't over. The lights were flickering again, But this time, it wasn't from damage, it was from a pulse. A low thump vibrated through the floor beneath their boots, like a heartbeat coming from deep inside the ship. Mark frowned, checking the nearest console. A silent signal was trying to push through the rebooted systems, coded and bouncing across frequencies like it was searching for something specific. Salvin crouched beside him, her tail slowly twitching, her claws slightly extended. "This frequency is not from the scavenger ship," she said. "This is older, darker." Mark leaned in, brows furrowed. "Encrypted. This isn't scav technology. It's too clean, too advanced." The signal repeated once, then vanished. No source, no trace. Then the airlock light turned green. That made no sense. Mark hadn't authorized anything. No one had. The outer doors weren't supposed to open without clearance. He turned toward the corridor, but before he could move, Salvin grabbed his arm. "Step behind me," she said firmly. The airlock hissed, and the inner door creaked. Open. But no one entered. There was no sound, no rush of air, only stillness. And something colder than space itself. A shape appeared in the fog. Not quite walking, more like gliding. Mark's heart pounded. It was tall, too tall to be human. Its body shimmered like flowing armor, but it made no sound, no breathing, no words, no heat signature. Its face was covered with a smooth mask that had no eyes, just a narrow slit pulsing with dull red light. Salvin's claws tightened. "Wraith Tech," she whispered. "Extinct 2,000 years ago." Mark took a step back. "Then why is it standing in our ship?" The thing didn't move. Then it raised one hand, not to attack, but to point straight at Mark. Saul single quotes Vin snarled, "Stay back. You touch him, you die." But the figure didn't come closer. Instead, it tilted its head slowly, almost curiously. Then a voice echoed not through the air, but directly into their minds. "You disturbed the bond." Mark staggered. His ears didn't hear it, but his skull felt it. It was like being whispered to by thunder. "What does that mean?" he shouted. "What bond?" Salvin stood between him and the figure now, her entire body tense to spring. "You are forbidden. You are not of this age." The wraith figure took one step forward and Salvin launched at it without hesitation. Her claws tore through where its chest should have been, but there was no resistance, no body. She fell through it and crashed against the far wall. The thing didn't even flinch. It turned its head again, now tilting toward Mark. "You were chosen, but you are not ready." Mark's knees buckled, not from fear but from pressure. The air around him felt thick, like water, pushing down on every inch of him. Lights around the ship dimmed further. Systems started shutting off one by one again. Salvin groaned, pulling herself up, blood on her lip. "You won't take him," she growled. Mark stood again, fighting the weight. "You're not real," he said. "You're a projection, a memory." The figure raised its hand again and pointed to Salvin. "If you keep her, you will bring war." That hit hard. Mark looked at her, bruised, protective, still standing guard between him and something no one understood. "She saved my life," he said. "More than once. I don't care who you are. You don't get to threaten her." The figure didn't move. Salvin took a breath. "You're not just bonded to me," she said quietly. "You're linked. They sense it. They fear it." "Why?" Mark asked. "Because a human and Azalari were never meant to become one." The ship groaned, metal twisting slightly as if reality itself was reacting to their connection. Mark stepped forward. "Then maybe that's the point." He raised his voice. "I don't know who you are. I don't know why you think this is your business. But I made my choice. I choose her." For the first time, the wraith figure moved back. The red glow dimmed. The pressure vanished. The lights brightened slightly, and the consoles beeped again. Then, without another word, the figure stepped backward into the mist and vanished. The airlock sealed shut. Silence returned. Mark dropped to one knee, exhausted. Salvin was already beside him, holding his shoulder. "You were willing to defy ancient beings for me," she said. He looked at her with tired eyes. "You punched a control panel into pieces for me. I think we're even." A tiny smile touched her lips, not even close. They sat together in the quiet room, systems slowly returning. But something had changed. Something deep, outside, in the endless black of space. The scavenger vessel had already turned and fled, perhaps sensing the presence of something. Even they wouldn't challenge, and floating just beyond radar range. Another ship observed in silence, its markings old, forgotten, and dangerous. It hadn't arrived for war. It had come to see if the bond was real. The stars outside the window blinked like distant warning lights, quiet and watching. Mark stood at the console, fingers moving across the controls, trying to stabilize the ship's systems. The damage from the scavenger attack was bad, but not beyond repair. Still, something lingered in the back of his mind, the wraith-like figure, its voice inside his head, and the message it left behind. If you keep her, you will bring war. He couldn't forget those words. Behind him, Salvan worked silently, rerouting power to the life support grid. Her armor was scratched, a few bruises still on her arms and face, but she hadn't slowed down once. She was focused, efficient, but quieter than usual. He wanted to say something, anything, but everything felt fragile now, like a wire stretched too tight. You've been silent since the encounter, she said finally, not turning around. Mark glanced up, trying to focus. No, she said. You are trying to avoid. He sighed. Maybe I am. She paused her work, then slowly turned to face him. You think I'm a danger now? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Mark leaned against the console. That thing, whatever it was, said we were bonded, that it was disturbed by us. If we keep going down this path, they'll come again. And next time, it might not just be a warning. She stepped closer. You're afraid. I'm human. Of course I'm afraid. Then break the bond, she said. The words cut through the air like a blade. He stared at her. You want that? No, she said softly. But if you no longer wish to carry the weight, say it now. Mark didn't answer immediately. He looked at her, really looked. She stood proud, shoulders squared. But her eyes were not glowing now. They were softer, vulnerable. She wasn't threatening him. She was offering him a choice. I don't want to lose you, he said. Then accept all that comes with me. I don't even understand all that comes with you. She nodded once, then turned back to her controls. Then it is time you did. She walked over to the locked chamber near the rear of the ship, one that had never been opened. With a few fast commands, the door slid open, revealing a small, private archive room lined with glowing panels and circular data stones. This is my memory vault, she said. No one else has ever seen it. Mark stepped in slowly, eyes scanning the strange glowing walls. Images flickered, battlefields, alien landscapes, rituals around fire and starlight. What is this? This is my life, she replied, and the lives of those who came before me. When a Zalari chooses a bondmate, she shares her line, her pain, her strength. She offers her entire legacy. One of the panels lit up, showing a younger Salvan standing in a crowd of warriors. Her name was being called. She stepped forward, blood on her claws, her face fierce and proud. That was the day I earned my name, she said. It means storm without mercy. Mark watched the memory, fascinated. Another image appeared, her mother, tall and regal, being taken away in chains during a clan conflict. She was punished for bonding with an outsider, Salvan whispered. A scientist from the Arandi system. The council feared her love would weaken her bloodline, so they erased her from our records. Mark turned to her, startled. You mean, that's why they watched you so closely? Why they warned me? Yes, she said. Because I carry her defiance. And now, so do you. Another image. Replaced the last Salvan standing over a dying Zalari elder, blood on her arms. A challenge fought, a victory taken. I became stronger than them, she said. But they still fear the bond. Mark stepped closer. Then why take the risk again? She looked him in the eyes. Because when you smiled at me that first day on the deck, I felt peace for the first time since my mother vanished. Silence filled the room. Mark took her hand, gently. I don't know what's coming, he said. I don't know what I'm doing most days, but I do know one thing. I'm not running from you. Her eyes widened slightly, then she stepped forward, pressing her forehead lightly to his chest, a gesture she had only done once before, during the heat of battle. This time, it was calm, gentle, true. A soft glow spread from the center of the memory vault, and the walls pulsed with light. The system registered something, an emotional signature. Two minds connecting, a true bond. But outside the chamber, deep in space, another pulse echoed back, a long-range signal, ancient, locked in frequency, aimed directly at the cruiser. It had been watching the entire time, and now it was coming. The stars outside shimmered, but there was a new light among them, one that didn't blink. It grew larger with every passing second, too controlled to be a drifting asteroid, too quiet to be a military ship. It made no sound, no signal. It just watched, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Inside the cruiser, Mark and Salvin stood shoulder to shoulder, staring at the main display. The unknown vessel had locked its path on them. No weapons visible, no hails, nothing but a silent approach. Mark crossed his arms. It's not broadcasting any threat. But that thing's not here for tea. Salvin's jaw was tight. That's a relic ship. I've only seen one once, in a museum under guard. It belonged to the Watchers. The Watchers? She nodded slowly. A race older than most empires. They never claimed territory. They just observed, studied, judged. Mark squinted at the screen. Judge what? Evolution, species, bonding, anything that might disturb their balance. Mark's stomach dropped. You think they came because of us? I don't think. I know. He turned to her, heartbeat picking up. Then we need to get out of here. We can't. The moment we activate any drive system, they'll intercept. We're still running on backups. Even if we tried to jump, they'd pull us apart before the coordinates lock in. A soft pulse hit the ship, like a heartbeat against the hull. Mark felt it in his chest, subtle, like someone knocking gently from outside the walls of reality. The screens flashed white, then darkness, then an image. It was them, not in real time, but from memory. The image showed Mark and Salvin standing together inside the memory vault, their hands touching, her forehead against his chest. A private moment, one never recorded by ship sensors. They saw us, Mark said, his voice low. They've been watching longer than we knew, she replied. A second image replaced the first. Mark holding Salvin after the scavenger fight, her shielding him from the Wraith projection. Each moment intimate, human, emotional, different. Another pulse. This time, it wasn't just a knock, it was a request. An invitation. The main screen lit up with a message. Enter the chamber. Alone. Mark blinked. What chamber? Salvin's voice dropped to a whisper. There's a room below the engine core. No one uses it anymore. It was sealed decades ago. It's a legacy system meant for communion. Communion? Mark asked. For testing. The purity of bonds. He stared at the screen. They want me to go alone. She stepped forward. Then I will follow. But the console hissed and a second message appeared. Only the human. Mark clenched his fists. If they try anything, you fight back, she said calmly, placing a claw gently on his chest. But you do not lie. They will know. Let them see who you truly are. A moment later, the floor beneath the bridge shimmered. Panels retracted to reveal a platform glowing with ancient markings. It hadn't been active in years, thus floated off it like mist shaken awake from deep sleep. Mark took one step onto it, then another. With a soft hum, the platform descended. He arrived in darkness. The air was warm, but not heavy. In front of him was a door, no lock, no handle, just a curve of light stretching from floor to ceiling. As he approached, it peeled open like breath. Inside the chamber was a circle of energy, floating in its center holograms of every bond he'd made. His mother, his sister, old friends, his commanding officer. Then Sal single quotes VEN. Each memory flickered with feelings. Laughter, pain, loyalty, love. A voice spoke not in his mind this time, but out loud. You understand connection. You give it freely, but do you understand its price? Mark stepped into the circle. I didn't ask for this bond with Salvin, but I accept it, even if I don't fully understand it yet. Your species bonds quickly, but can it last through storm and flame? I'm not sure, he admitted, but I'm willing to find out. She's not like you. I know, Mark said. That's why I won't let go. Silence followed. Then Salvin's image appeared again. This time she was younger, scared, chained like her mother once was. Mark flinched. Do you accept her past? I accept all of her. The chamber darkened. Then light returned, but this time it was gold. The voice faded. The walls melted into stars, and the platform rose again. When Mark reached the bridge, Salvan was waiting. Her eyes searched his, unsure. Then he stepped forward, took her hand, and gave a single nod. She didn't ask what he saw, she just held tighter. Outside, the relic ship turned. It drifted away. No fire, no warning. Judgment had passed. For now, the stars shifted overhead as the ancient ship faded into the dark, leaving no trace behind. No heat, no signal, not even a gravitational ripple. It was as if the watchers had never been there. Yet their presence still weighed on Mark's chest. Like a stone, the silence that followed felt both peaceful and dangerous. Like the eye of a storm just before it turned back again. Salvan stood at the edge of the command deck, watching the last shimmer of the ship disappear. She hadn't spoken since Mark returned from the chamber, but her posture had changed. No longer on edge, no longer guarded. She looked grounded. He joined her, their shoulders almost touching. "They're gone," he said quietly. "For now." She replied, "They saw what they needed to see." "And what do you think they saw?" She turned to him slowly. "Truth." Mark gave a dry laugh. "That's not always enough for people like them." "No. But sometimes it's enough for us." A soft alert blinked on the console. Power restoration sequence completed. Engines online. Navigation responding. The ship was alive again. Mark walked to the control panel and ran a quick scan. No more threats. No more shadows creeping toward them. But something unexpected appeared on the long-range scope. A call. One of their own. From Earth. He clicked the channel open. A familiar voice crackled through. "This is UHS Command. Officer Mark. Do you copy? We've received strange readings. From your quadrant. Your ship went dark for hours. Report status immediately." Mark exchanged a glance with Salvan, then answered, "This is Officer Mark. Systems are restored. We experienced interference. Define interference." The voice demanded. Mark hesitated. He could lie. Say they were attacked by pirates. Blame it on solar flares. Avoid the truth. But then he looked at Salvan again, her head tilted slightly, waiting. He took a breath. "We encountered an ancient observer class vessel, possibly related to the Watchers. They initiated a judgment sequence involving me and my Zalari partner." Silence on the other end. "Then, are you confirming a personal bond with your alien colleague?" Mark's grip tightened. "Yes, I am." Another pause. Then the voice returned, more mechanical now. "Understood. Return to Earth for debrief. Command will discuss the implications of this development." The channel closed. Mark leaned back, exhaling. "I just made things worse, didn't I?" Salvan stepped forward. "You made them honest." He turned toward her. "What now?" "When we get back, they'll put us through tests, interviews, maybe even quarantine." "Let them," she said, eyes calm. "I have nothing to hide." He smiled weakly. "You know they might try to separate us." Her claws twitched slightly. "Then they will fail." They stood together in silence, watching the stars roll by as the ship changed course, heading home. But Earth wasn't the same place they had left, and neither were they. In the quiet hum of the ship's return journey, Mark noticed Salvan entering the memory vault again. He followed, curious, inside. She stood before the glowing wall and pressed her claw into the stone, activating a new recording. A golden light wrapped around her hand, and a circle of flame symbols formed in the air. "What are you doing?" Mark asked. She looked over her shoulder. "Marking the bond. In my bloodline. So my descendants will know your name." His throat tightened. "That's serious, huh?" She tilted her head. "Do humans not record their most powerful unions?" "We do," he said, smiling. "But usually with cake and dancing." She stepped closer. "I prefer fire and vows. Different cultures," he said with a grin. She raised one eyebrow. "Maybe both." He laughed. "I'd try anything. With you." Salvan extended her hand and drew a simple mark over his wrist with the tip of her claw. It glowed briefly. Zalari script for bond accepted. The heat didn't hurt. It pulsed, warm and strong, like her presence beside him. Then she whispered something in her own language. Mark didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She had claimed him not as property, but as something deeper, and he had accepted it. As they returned to the bridge, A final message blinked across the ship's ancient logs and echo from the Watchers, encoded into the system during the judgment test. When species understand each other, they grow stronger. When they bond, they evolve. Mark read it twice. Then he looked at her. We didn't break the universe, he said softly. We just rewrote the rules. She touched his hand. Then let's see what comes next. The stars ahead opened wide and known, burning bright and waiting for a new story. Together, they stepped into it.